We begin with breaking news out of Longview. Officials confirming they've recovered 6 bodies from the aftermath of a chemical implosion, bringing the death toll to 8. Fox 13's Dan Griffin is there now, minutes after officials gave an update on the situation. And Dan, I want to ask you, do we know what is making these recovery efforts of the remaining 3 employees so difficult?
Well, we have heard time and time again throughout this entire process that they have continued to face a lot of barriers, everything from waste to chest-deep water, that hazardous material, that white liquor that we've heard all about, and also now electrical hazards. We heard early on Tuesday that this material was so caustic that it was eating away at some of their personal protective equipment as they tried to do this. And they're also really trying to make sure that they can get this done during the daylight. That's just for their safety, as they try to find these victims and, as they say, treat them with dignity and care as they bring them to then be decontaminated and taken then to the coroner's office. It's certainly been one of those difficult situations where they are trying to balance their own personal safety while also trying to make sure they can get this done. We know that they have recovered 6 of 9 of the people. They say that they are working with the coroner's office to start moving on notifications to get those families information that have been waiting and have just been devastated by this. That brings the fatalities to 8 from what we understand, and they have 3 more people that they are trying to find. Recovery efforts continue here, and they say that this is an active, hazardous recovery environment. We heard from the Longview battalion chief, who talked with us about the number of agencies here on the scene who are trying to continue this activity somewhat close to the tank, but they also say that the tank is not necessarily considered to be a risk for them as they continue to do this here. We heard from the Environmental Protection Agency, who talked with us a little bit about how they are focused on protecting the health and the environment here after you have more than 500,000 gallons of this kind of material that is, basically released into this area here. And they tell us that they are monitoring pH levels and that they are keeping an eye on things. But we also heard that some of this made its way into the ditches here and into the network. They say that it's not a concern. They've continued doing air testing as well as pH level and water testing. But I did ask the question, what would you say to people who have had this run relatively close to their homes, and they say that it is safe, and if they were exposed to any of this water, that they should rinse off immediately. I asked, would this mean that they could have chemical burns? They did not seem to think so, so that's something that we learned from that as well. I do want to toss, we have a little bit of the press conference here. I want to toss to that so you can get a listen to what they were talking about just a few minutes ago.
The result of the discharge of high pH caustic liquid from the facility through the storm drain and into the ditch on the north side of Industrial Way here, just across the street. So obviously there was a large amount of volume that was released from the tank, so in addition to fire water that entered into a storm drain, it ended up discharging into this industrial ditch, or the ditch on the north side of Industrial Way. That ditch is connected to a dike network that moves throughout the entire community of Longview. It literally runs through people's backyards.
Differing opinions on that,
and so we will continue to track that part of this investigation. But something else I want to lean into here, we were at the Nippon area here, the facility, and we saw some people come over. They happen to be friends of a man who worked here, a man who we're told he and his girlfriend moved down here from Tacoma, from our area. They had so many plans, apparently, about getting married, their home, building a home here, and from what we understand, he was an electrician. I want to share a little bit of what they had to say about him and also his girlfriend.
Amazing, selfless guy, funny.
Amazing barbecuer.
Very proud of his barbecuing, and, just took care of the community. He wasn't from Cathlamet, but I'll tell you, you wouldn't have noticed by the way he took care of that community. From the students in the school that he volunteered helping, he just volunteered at the prom. We've kind of been in a daze because we don't really know what had been happening. We didn't have the answers. It's just kind of a wait and see what you hear.
And it really breaks your heart to hear people talk about loved ones, friends, community members, the unknowns. And, you know, they say 6 have been recovered, more. And then, you know, obviously the fatalities going up to 8 when you do all of this math. And you think about the impact on people here. And it's just absolutely devastating. That's just one story. We're going to keep talking with people out here as they feel comfortable sharing these stories with us. But, you know, certainly a loss for this community. And I'm sure for his and her family members, people back in Tacoma, we'll stay on this and we'll keep you updated as this moves forward. But for now, we're live in Longview. Dan Griffin, Fox 13 News.